What's going on, people? Back at you once again with our daily ag talk with B1 Ag, where it's all ag every day. Well, today we're going to have more of a practical conversation. If you were to start an agricultural business, there are certain things that you would need to have in place, just like any other business. And we're going to discuss some of those 13 questions that you may want to answer if you want to start an agricultural enterprise. Farmer Brown, let the people know what's going on.
Harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get the farmers market popping like the Carter, growing harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get the farmers market popping like the Carter. I troll the game like 4-5, so ahead of the curve I can't go live. These woker jokers, they so jive. I'm deep up in it, I nose dive. Sink or swim, I'm wavy. Cowabunga, I'm surfing. Kundalini on 6G, my ancestors been working. 40 years, I'm grateful. Bad knees still hooping. Way too lit to be hateful. Man, the most high been recruiting. Percentage high when I'm shooting. Add cloth to my tribe. That Turtle Island I keep a line since Pangea been live. I don't speak no fables. Just bring receipts to the table. Came to show this hand. Can't get caught up slipping like Abel. What's overstood, say silent. We ain't even got to say it. All I know is that debt is up and somebody gon' pay it. Harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get the farmers market popping like the Carter, growing harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get the farmers market popping like the Carter. And so that's the goal. Peace. This is Farmer Brown, the MC, B1 Ag. And so once again, this is the goal of B1 Ag. How do we get the farmers market popping like the Carter? When we think about ag businesses, ag enterprises, a lot of times we tend to limit ourselves to just growing something out in the field, raising livestock, even to the farmers market. But I think this is a great opportunity, once again, with everything we've been discussing, to discuss all of the other opportunities to earn revenue. I wouldn't say that just by getting into agriculture, you're going to become a millionaire. But rationale says if you come up with a product or service that people need and it's reliable. And I'll use my daughter for example. So you think about it, you're a parent, you have children, you want to get some fresh produce. Right now we're in social distancing, for example. It's not politically or expedient to be out in public. And so how am I going to get food? Am I a company that can deliver food to families that don't necessarily, can't just get up and leave and go to a market? It's all right. Yeah. But yeah, so as we have this discussion, so once again, we were talking briefly yesterday just about the concept of pudgies. Let's see if I got a copy. She's back here running around. And so this, it's simple as it is, you'll wonder, what does this book, for example, have to do with agriculture and an ag business? And so what it is Pudgy's First Foods. This is basically a product made of paper, depicting melanated characters, black family, particularly my twins, nutritional facts, how to can produce. And so using that as an example, as we talk about these 13 questions, who could use such a thing? You know, how does it help agriculture, enhance the agricultural experience? And so with that, we'll start from question one. So who are your potential customers? I want to sell this cool book talking about produce. I want to sell this shea butter infused with hemp. I want to share these herbs that I'm growing in my backyard garden. I want to sell these tomatoes. So who are the people that are going to buy these? I have this great idea. I realize I'm a green thumb. I realize I have this space. I have some time on my hand to produce, but who am I going to sell it to once I've produced it? And this is one question. I guess the first question in starting any sort of ag enterprise is who's actually going to buy this final product? Because I don't want to exhaust all of my resource and inputs creating something, producing something that nobody wants. Question two, how far are they willing to travel? And so I'll go back to the example of my book. So there's obviously an Amazon where people can order online. And so this is a digital point of sale. Once again, with tomatoes, I can't ship a tomato through the UPS. I can't ship a tomato through FedEx. And so to make this transaction happen, either I have to have a contract with a known distributor or a market such as your Kroger, your Costco, or Walmart, which typically African-American black farmers don't have contracts with these large entities. And so next level down will be your farmers markets or your hood stores. So once again, and if I am going to sell my produce, my tomatoes, my books here, how many people go to this location? If I'm say in a low density area, I'm a rural farmer. I farm out in a rural area. I'm not necessarily around thousands of people who pass the street every day. And so do I have a friend? Do I have a network in a more congested area or a more condensed area with more people? What do they want and why? Why would I want this book? Why would I want this tomato? Well, obviously for a tomato, I want my kids to be healthy. For a book, I want my kids to see something that they resonate with. For shea butter, I want my kids' skin to be nice and smooth. For all of these products we mentioned, we have to figure out who it is that actually benefits from receiving these products. If it's just a handful of people that think the kids' book is cute, or just a handful of people within my circle that eat tomatoes, it will kind of be a pointless enterprise. It will be useful to me if I just want to eat them, but if nobody really wants to buy them, I will be wasting resources. How much will they buy? A lot of times we have these talks. I've been able to go around and present the importance of agriculture. People get excited, ready to make some moves. I'm ready to buy some produce. But, how much produce do you eat per week? You want to come and support, you want to show love and buy this tomato, but I can't base a business if you're only going to buy a handful of tomatoes every 2, 3, 4 months or every time there's a social media post. So once again, you want to establish who is the market, who is the base of people who are going to come patronize my ag enterprise. How and through what outlets will you distribute your products? Once again, this goes back to the concept of markets. To be very realistic, the majority of us in engaging in an ag enterprise aren't going to get in a big store. That's just not feasible. You're competing with 3.5 million farmers across North America, many of which have had hundreds of years of an advantage of really building infrastructure and capacity to not only produce the food, produce the plants and animals, but also processing. As we talk about the opportunities in B1 Ag, so these are investments, once again, for people when we think about processing. When we think about creating brick and mortar facilities where food can be distributed. Like I said, up here in Lexington, Kentucky, we have the Black Soil Fulfillment Center. Farmers from rural areas are able to bring their produce in, and people in the urban area are able to come there and buy it. And so once, like I said, there's an established connection of how I'm going to distribute it to my customer. Other questions you want to take under consideration. What is the typical marketing season? I must admit, I got kind of, spoiled by the thought of just being able to go to a store. I can get a strawberry whenever I want, which is typically grown in certain types of climate. I can go get a pineapple whenever I want. I can get a banana whenever I want. All of these are plants that if we're operating in a truly natural system wouldn't be available in certain parts of the country during certain times of the year. But I can go to Walmart in the middle of the winter in Kentucky or the Midwest and expect a banana because there's an extensive network of places where they do grow bananas. There's an extensive network of storage facilities. It gets also into the chemicals and sciences. We're able to enjoy these fruits that are growing out of season because, we have to spray them with things. We want to keep the water content in. We want to make them look good. But saying that to say, how are we storing these? To get my bananas, that means there might be a week or two between when it's first picked from the tree. And so this is something you want to establish. Is this the season to grow what I'm growing? Do I have a network if, say, the majority of people that want to buy this product I'm producing are in Florida? Well, I would have to go through two different states to get this product to Florida. Since I can't send food and fresh produce through UPS, so to speak, do I have a specific strain? Do I have a specific variety of a seed that I can maybe co-op with somebody in Florida to grow this for a customer? And maybe I do the marketing on this end. So these are things to consider with that as far as your marketing season. Is this the time? If this is going to take me 50 to 150 days to harvest, by the time it's ready, will there be a market for it? How familiar are your customers with the products and the services you're offering? As a hip hop artist, social media, we came up in a time when we were selling outside of the trunk. Actually, we came into the flyers and posters. That was later in the game. We started in 95. It was still cassette tapes. And I remember we used to leave the studio, we'd be hype. And in my mind, I would think, man, we just recorded the dopest song in America today. Because we were the only ones listening to it. There were nobody else in America around listening to what we created. But in my mind, because I loved it so much, I bet the rest of the world is going to think this is the greatest song ever. And it was only till I moved to Atlanta that I realized, okay, there are people who have $1 million careers that their job is to make these great songs. So saying that to say, when you apply that towards an enterprise, particularly an ag enterprise, how well do your customers really know you? I know with Facebook algorithms, for example, say if I have 100 friends, I put up a post, I fully believe in it, I know I can supply this. Only 10% of the people on my friends list are going to receive this post unless I pay for time. And even with that, there's algorithms. What did the elders say? There's nothing for free. Nothing of value is for free. And so you want to factor in how much capacity do you have to let your customers or potential new customers know about what it is you're selling? How well are your networks? So maybe I'm just good at producing. I don't like talking to people. People agitate me. But when it comes to these plants, when it comes to these animals, like clockwork, all day in the kitchen. And so do I have a network that can actually market these to people to let them know of the products and services I have? How much will it cost to produce the product? What I've learned with the books, and I published my first book back in 2008. And I'm not going to say I got gypped, but there's this excitement of you have this book, this idea, this thing that you want to sell. You feel like, oh, the world would be drastically changed if they heard this. And so there's always a company, just like some of these self-publishing companies, that exploit on that excitement. And so what you end up realizing is I spent more money to produce this idea versus actually selling it to people. The price I have to sell it to make my money back is not really worth it. I have a 69-page book. I have to sell it for $25 to make 40 cents profit. That's an unsustainable model. And so a lot of times when we're talking about agriculture and produce, each year prices fluctuate for seed, land value, markets fluctuate. And so this is one of those things you don't wake up on one day and say, I'm going to be the greatest farmer, and then the next day you become successful. This is over years of time. This is over years of observation. Like I say, there's always research-based information to base your decisions around, but it's also a thing of just kind of sitting, observing these trends, observing, what is a noticeable pattern. And so I don't want to spend more for the corn that I'm producing than what I stand to earn. And another concept I'm kind of deviating away, but not, that we'll get into in a later discussion, is energy return on investment. For the amount of energy that I'm putting in to get this food. If I'm an ant and I know I need 5 calories of energy to make it through the day. I know if I walk X amount of distance, I'm gonna get 2 calories of energy from whatever this is I'm gonna eat. But then I know I gotta burn 2 to get to it. So if I burn 2 to get to it and I eat it, and then I burn another 2 to get back to where I was, that was a zero gain. That was zero EROI. The goal is I'm traveling a shorter distance, but what I'm bringing back is more energy. When we put that into a concept of currency, you don't want to spend more currency on the product you're creating or the service you're providing than what you stand to make from it. No matter how good of an idea is, we want to be practical when we're talking business. Also, what are the market regulations and rules? I know here in central Kentucky, there were a lot of people that got disappointed over the last 2 years about hemp and the rollout of the hemp program. And I guess speaking in agent mode, to the defense of the state, it was laid out pretty early, even in the licensing process, that this is something that only invests what you stand to lose. because there hadn't been a set of regulations on what is actually required. What is the difference between hemp and actual what we would call marijuana? How do we insure this crop? How do we know somebody's not growing marijuana and saying it's hemp? How do we know the THC level in this plant is actually what they say it is? And so there wasn't an infrastructure in place to actually measure this. And so as an insurance company, no, I'm not going to insure your crop that you just spent $20,000 in, because you could lose it and not justify it. So saying that to say all of this was laid out, and I'm just using hemp as an example, this will go across the board. It was something people were excited about. There were a lot of conversations about the potentiality, which is great potential. Hemp has 20,000 different products that can be derived from it. But you also have to be practical. Do we have the infrastructure in North America right now to make use of hemp? So there was a large excitement about hemp oils, the oils that could be extracted. And so what happened was, and I noticed here in Kentucky and other places I've traveled, you have this influx of CBD salons or stores, what they call them. We're oversaturated. They said, I forget the specific stat, but there's more CBD per individual in America than what's needed. And obviously everybody in America doesn't use CBD products. And so you want to realize, what are the market regulations and rules? As melanated people, we got to go into anything assuming that something is going to work against us, assuming that a rule is not going to work in our favor. It's not to be distracted, but it's to be very intentional and very aware of, what is the game I'm playing. I understand if the average farmer, non-black farmer, can get away with 10 missteps. I understand as a melanated farmer, I got 2 before I can destroy my operation. So I want to factor this in. What are the rules? And then last but not least on this question of 13, and then we can get into more detail, what risks do you face with this new product? And so getting into this work, you can learn the pettiness on a lot of levels of different people. When I say pettiness, I say that in a professional way. Sometimes we want to get from point A to point B, but when we think about bureaucracy, when we think about these antiquated systems that we operate in, you have to go through all of these extra steps to get from point A to point B. And so what risk do you face with your new product? I'll once again go back to my book, for example. These are black children. And believe it or not, I've come across people that had the mindset, what does black have to do with agriculture? Why do they have to be black kids? Why can't they just be kids? All kids matter. Whether you agree with that sentiment or not, my black children matter to me. My black community matters to me. So I'm not going to be guilted in that. But once again, thinking about who are your consumers. If you're basing the product you're making on any particular group, if you're basing it on green people, then it will behoove you to understand, what are the nuances, what are those little dynamics within the green community that affect their purchasing habits. If me speaking, say, for a black issue, for example, will perturb them from shopping with me, it's not a moral debate. It's, do you want this dollar or not? If you're going to talk about this, I'm not going to give you the dollar. And as a producer, as a business, you have every right to do what you choose to do. But once again, if you're into profit, you don't want to perturb your clientele. There's some people that are farmer market professionals. They know exactly what to look for. They know what quality produce looks like. And so do you have quality produce? Because if, once again, black farmers have a much different experience in the market than other farmers. You only have a few inches to make a mistake before, everything you're touching must be bad. It must be contaminated because your little brown fingers. And so you got to be very sure, as the products that I'm presenting to the public, are they grade A? If grade A is the standard, I need grade A plus A as a black farmer. On one end, you should say, well, why should we have to take these extra steps? But once again, when we think about the concept of Neely Fuller compensation, if we realize that there's a system and a standard to create our value on this planet, we want to expand that standard. We want to stretch what those standards are. So saying that to say, these are just the 13 questions, and I welcome you to kind of go back through any particular ones. But I guess to simplify it is being very conscientious of this product you want to put to the public or this service. As we've discussed on this platform a few times now, food security will never go away. That's always going to be an issue that our community and other communities around the world will face. Our ability to master this the same way we've mastered sports, entertainment, even politics. Let's just be honest. We get good at things that we have to struggle to attain. And so if we can really get that mindset around creating ag enterprises, let me not jump into a lane where I'm not fully equipped. I can grow you a great garden. Up to this point in my life, I've grown enough food to provide a few salads in our house, a couple cucumbers here. Our greens do very well. But to get out here and say I can be the best livestock farmer, invest in me, that would be foolish. However, I understand how to build networks. I understand how to market. I understand how to connect people. And so this is my niche in that. Just like this producer over here. Hey, you have land or you have a product that helps this community of people that I serve that might have food insecurity, that might have a program where they want to source their food and their lunches from local farmers. Hey, I go to schools and present, but I know these schools are interested from buying from local farmers. And so it's really utilizing these connections and unique, what I would say, advantages that we have.
Farmer Brown.
Uh-huh.
Now, what do you suggest to help people just to get started on the agricultural enterprise?
To get started, and we welcome people to reach out. We have we have all the information you would need to ponder all the planning documents as far as business planning, ag enterprise planning, risk management. So you can reach out to B1 Ag and we can shoot you that information. But the skinny of it is, once again, put it on paper first. We have these great ideas, and the good thing about a good business plan is you're able to kind of hash out and ask these questions that we just asked. And so I think to start, especially if you're wanting to do a business, is really ask these questions and answer the hard questions. I have this great idea, but do I really have the time to actually produce what it is I'm wanting to accomplish? Do I really have the manpower? Do I have the working capital? Do I have access to the capital? Once again, you can rent land $200 a year. And so, once you've put it on paper, once you've had, I'm a person that's big on vision boards. You want to put everything in front of you and identify. They call it a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And being honest with yourself. And from there, that's when you plant that first seed, as we were discussing yesterday. If I just want to get started, because once again, you want to mix business. You understand this is a business. We want to conduct a transaction, and also I want to produce something. And so doing each of those on a micro level would help to better tailor your specific business. I could tell you 120% what's worked for me as far as an ag entrepreneur new to this whole world of agriculture, and it works 100% for me because I'm 100% my program. But when we think about what a code represents, a code is something, when I plug it in the wall, it's always going to work. When I flip a switch, it's always going to work. When I get to talking, when I get to getting creative as far as how I present ag content, it's always going to work that way. If I say this word a certain way, it's always going to be that way. And so to that degree, this is what I try my best to master, get good at. To that same degree of producer, somebody who's actually producing the food. Focus on that, and we learn how to operate in a co-op model to achieve this ends. But like I said, go through the play of what you want to do on paper. Go through the actual hands-on, through actually producing something small. I wouldn't suggest to anybody, some people learn at a different pace, but I would never suggest to anybody to just jump into it. As far as, let me just put seeds in the ground and I'm going to tell everybody on Facebook and Instagram that I got a business. Like, you're setting yourself up for failure. And then you're going to put, some people, you put yourself in a situation where now, okay, I done put this out here, that I'm doing this great thing. I've come up with this great idea. Now, hey, I didn't think this all the way out. I said I could have this all year round, and now I don't have anybody to source it. And so now I'm going to spend X amount of months trying to convince my customers, just wait, I'll have it. And this is how you burn those relationships. And so once again, you avoid the time you'll spend trying to make up for what you did wrong by thinking it out before you start and getting started in the right direction.
Now, with any business, competition is going to be a necessary, we'll say, evil when it comes to capitalism. However, with agriculture, I look at competition a little different. You do want to see who your competitors are. especially if they're growing the same product. However, this is food. So competing to produce the most food is not going to hurt anyone. It's not going to hurt anyone. So you may look at your competitor and maybe think, well, I actually, even though they're my competitor, I may be able to work with them. Or if they have a competitive advantage in producing greens, I may want to produce root. I may want to produce something that will complement that. Could you speak on competition and the roles it can play in agriculture?
Okay, so we're on Boss Sports Networks. I think sports is one of the best analogies when you think about this. And so LeBron has a choice. You know, there's this new player in the league, Durant or Curry. I have a choice. Man, this guy is good. He can shoot the same way as me. He can penetrate. He can do all these things I can do. Now, I can just kind of kowtow and be like, man, he's good. Or, you know, how many hours does he spend practicing? He spends 20, I'm going to spend 21. You know, how many practice shots does he take before a game? 100, I'm going to shoot 200. And so competition drives you to be better once, you know, their focus is I want to win this game, ultimately to win a championship. Ultimately, you know, you're bringing all sorts of praise revenue into your city. So it's identifying a specific objective first. You know, my thing is don't jump into ag trying to trip somebody else up. You know, this isn't hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like this, ag isn't about, you know, I want to make my business good to make your business go out of business. It's the thing of, hey, if I'm McDonald's and I make great hamburgers and then a Wendy's pops up that makes good hamburgers, then, you know, customers might go there for a while, but now we're going to have this hamburger war. Now I put hamburger in your mind as something to compete for and you're going to drive business. When you think about ag competition, so think about it. What we want to do is address this 40% of food that's going to waste in North America and this 1.5%, one out of five black families that's going hungry. To me, that's a very formidable challenge. I wish you would try to grow more food than me, because win or lose is two times more food to eat. I wish in a utopian world, I wish the game competition was I'm feeding more people on my block than you are. Well, how are you feeding more people on your block than me? Because I'm employing more people. I done network better. I done went around here and market better. I know the people on my block, and the people on my block respect me. I got a workforce. I got soldiers out here. We protect our areas. We make sure that the product gets to where it's going. That to me, that's a formidable competition to where even if you lose, you still fall short of that you fed people. You gave something, you literally gave something to somebody that there's no bad karma for feeding anybody. There's no bad karma for producing something constructive and useful to a person. The only thing, what did they say? Money makes money. Way before we had a dollar, currency was what do you have? What do I have? Do you have something of equal value compared to what I have? And so we think about leveraging these resources, leveraging these relationships within the community. That's a great competition. Oh, you produced more acres than me this year, Farmer Joe. Well, great. That means you did better business, and this is gonna inspire me, even if I'm a hater. I have to outgrow this person because he grew more than what I grew. And so the hope is that I'm gonna go back to the table, innovate. Okay, I saw that this person on this same plot produced X amount. What can I do to produce X amount? And so even if I would hope it's not nefarious in your heart that you just want to undercut, but if you just have that LeBron, if you just have that sports competitive nature of I want to get this trophy of feeding the most people in my hood. I don't want to just serve turkeys on Christmas. You know, when it comes down, if the so-called government decides to cut assistance, if somehow there's a natural disaster where, you know, our large crops or our food system is interrupted, I put in the effort now to make sure that we have a food place, a food system operable in my hood later. That's a great competition to have. And so, like I said, when you're applying this to business, and in my personal opinion, my thing is I wish you would try to grow more food than me, because win or lose is two times more food to eat. This applies to any business. The ag business is so big right now for what we call African Americans, foundational black. Hey, what I've created is a Sesame Street character, equivalent to a Sesame Street. All of us have lived long enough to know the value of educational material animated material, we understand how that inspires and engages youth. Since I came into ag so late that hey, I can garden good, but not let me try to go out here and compete with one of the more seasoned farmers. But what I do know, what did Pac say? Found a weakness in the game and I sold it. I realized like not too many of us are represented in a respectable way, presenting this information. A lot of times we're like the sidekick. Oh, great job, great thinker. And so this was a small niche. Right now, I know there's brothers and sisters across the country right now doing specific ag productions. And so to me, when I hear a DJ Cave, when I see Corey Goo, when I see the material, the dope material that they're creating, that puts me not only as an artist but as a gardener, somebody who's passionate about my community. Man, this person did a good job. What can I do to, we want to make this an interesting game, and not only just a game to one up people, but a game to big up everybody. And so in that sense, competition is great.
Also, in starting an agricultural enterprise, I suggest that people start with what they like. For instance, I like strawberries, so I might as well start trying to grow strawberries. I may start just growing for myself, and then if I grow enough, and I have access to sell, everything else is a bonus. What suggestions do you have for people just getting started?
Echo on what you said. Start with something you actually use. If you don't eat squash, then I wouldn't allocate space in my garden to grow squash. Like you said, if you eat strawberries, I mean, you almost have to be under a rock not to have information around you. I mean, this is Google. Like I said, we have a wealth of information just floating around in extension as well. Find what it is. I want strawberries. Okay, well, what do I need to grow these strawberries? Do I have to have containers? If not containers, what kind of space? What is the climate I need to have them in? And so it starts with an intent, but like you said, start with something that you're actually going to use. Because once again, subconsciously, you'll be incentivized to, see it into fruition versus, okay, this is a cute activity. I'll just throw this seed here and whatever. You have no intrinsic incentive to water it and nurture it. So start with something you're going to use. If it's a business, start with the business like, hey, you know what? This is something that I don't have in my household, or I wish was available when I was growing up, or I wish was available to my mother and father or my family. Start with the needs that you immediately are aware of. There's so much of the world that I think I have an opinion of because I have YouTube, right? But unless you're in an actual situation, you can really never know what's going on. So for me to make a business based on, hey, it looks like in California they don't have this, and so here in the state of Kentucky, I'm gonna make a business that will be foolish. Let me look at what grows in Kentucky. What do I consume that is grown in Kentucky? What grows best here? And so being very, very practical in how you start. What is the outcome? I know at the end of this year, I'm going to plant 20 tomato plants. I at least want to have 5. No, I want to have 15. Set your standard high. But yeah, start with something you're going to use. Start with something that's useful specifically where you're at.
Are there any true risks outside of losing resources, maybe a little money? Are there any real true risks in agriculture?
So farmers, and this is across the board, across ethnicity, are one of the largest groups now committing suicide in North America. When you say risks, some people don't necessarily just look at it like, hey, this is an enterprise. I just want to make profit. You're dealing with legacy. I can make $1 million in my life, have a great life. But if I lost this family farm that great great grandfather started, had to fight, he was a sharecropper for, he endured all sorts of humiliation, but he was able to pass this asset through my family and not lose it because of dealing with some people that was just trying to profit real quick, dealing with some people that's got this great idea. That's a risk. I realize I'm in a world where, there's a lot of people, non-black people that are losing. They're in the process of losing things. Not everybody, but it's a considerable amount to where things can become cutthroat on a local level, on a national level. You can have 10 people in a room, 9 of them have great intentions, but all it takes is one with the right position and influence to make a situation go bad. So it's obviously a risk. There are some that just, I don't want to see Hank Aaron hit that record-breaking home run. I don't want to see this farmer over here outproduce me. There's no rationale behind it. That's a risk some black farmers take. I would definitely not let that deter me. You have brought up money, and so you can't control what the weather's going to do. I know we have, what do they call it, HARP. We have these weather machines, but I tend to think nature has a slight advantage over its creation, right? And so, but weather is a risk. Work, so once again, if I want to have a productive operation, it's going to take actual work. It's going to take labor and time. Well, what if I get injured midway through and I've already invested all of these different inputs and all of these different materials and equipment? That's a risk, because now I spent all of this time, I spent all of that effort, and midway through something that I didn't plan for happened, and I didn't have a network in place. I didn't plan A to Z to, okay, if something does happen, who's going to come and do this to make sure we get to the end? So that one of the 48 laws of power, isolationism, is fatal. Farming, once again, and this goes back into the co-op model, the more people you're able to work with, you reduce the risk. Right now, in just my modest professional opinion, I wouldn't get into any agriculture enterprise unless I had a formidable partner or a team who, you don't want to just meet people out of nowhere and start a ag enterprise. You want to have people that you vetted, they've vetted you, what you're bringing to the table, and you can sit honestly and evaluate, hey, this might be expected a year down the road, 2 years down the road. Can you fulfill this? Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself about your capabilities. Sometimes I'm an excitable person. I tend to think that we can change the world in a second if we just, there's a magical thing we can do. But in reality, I understand, there's processes in place for any constructive outcome. And so with that, to get gold, you got to dig. To get to the, think about Mario Brothers, so to speak. It lets you know about how close I am with video games. You got to go past Koopa. You got to fight a dragon. And so saying that to say that dragon represents risks. That dragon represents, now once I take this beast on, it's a good chance it bites me. This is biting me through economics. This is biting me through keeping me away from markets. Down to this is biting me through, hey, you now got a sale going on where I can't compete with you. The amount I'm paying for my tomatoes, you can get it 10 times cheaper. And so all of these are risks that you take. But going back to those 13 questions that we asked before, this is why each of those are very important. I can't stress enough, it is absolutely a lot of risk. Absolutely. I will not sugarcoat it. But I will say there's more odds of a great outcome by pursuing it, really putting your mind to it, than not. And what do they say? It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. It's better to have the ability to produce. Have these networks in place. Maybe in 2021, I heard these kooky bros talking about this farm stuff. And through the year, I started on it. And then maybe like, this ain't cool. But during this time, I met X amount of black farmers. And so maybe I didn't start this business I wanted to. But in the process of at least trying, I met some other networks. And so this goes back to the 250,000 students. This is very practical. If you can get a certain percentage of them to really buy into this, have this conversation and discussion at home with their parents, you now increase not only the interest in this topic. Any one of these parents might be like, hey, son, daughter, I love what you're talking about. I need to meet me a black farmer. And so there's all sorts of intended strategic consequences of just trying. So that's what I'm saying. The risk is worth what you stand to gain by really putting your mind on it. I'm 10 years into this now. I started, like I said, with the whole lawn care thing, doing basic gardens, went through the school process, interned at the state capitol, done the fellowships, did the conference circuit, did the in-class circuit, and I realized that, anything's possible. There's so many possible things, but you have to take risks. Everything I have going on as far as our ag businesses. So like I said, I have the publishing Farmer Brown LLC. This is ag education. This is a legitimate business. And then Black Soil. This is agritourism and procuring market share for farmers. And so within these, the whole concept is let me get good at this. Let me not try to get good at somebody else's lane. Let me maximize this. Yes, there's risk in this, so don't let me take on more than what I need to per what I want to produce, per what I want to sell.
And the need for food production is so important. It's almost like not participating in agriculture is the biggest risk.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
Yes. And I also say when we talk about these risks, like I said, I'm a person, just put it all on the table and then let me think about it. Don't sugarcoat it. We have these communal nuances and these this distrust, and we understand, whether you want to get into the Willie Lynch or COINTEL, we have all of these things that have sown distrust just in our ability to not only just converse with one another, as Dr. John Henry Clark said, just be able to communicate with one another. Just be able to have a peaceable conversation. And so that's a risk. I think about over the past summer with the MFAC and Grandmaster Jay. The jury's still out. I don't know what to think, but I do know, okay, well, we really don't have a large, grand, I guess, military type force in a situation where we needed to protect something. What if this was absolutely needed? How well are we poised as a community to galvanize around it? My thing with the million shovels, okay, yeah, it's a hard sell, get a million black folks to go in a single place with guns, because the mind's going to naturally think, oh, you trying to set me up? Is this a trap? Or is somebody going to let their gun off? And so using that as an example, your mind is going to go to all these things that could go wrong. And so my thing starting with something as simple as gardening, we have to build trust. It's one thing, most of us are industrious just out of the struggle. But it's also being able to build trust not only with the people who you're ultimately inevitably going to have to conduct commerce with, but you're also going to have to support one another. Other nations around the world, they don't have to go through all these arduous steps of just trying to build trust with one another. It can be frustrating, but you understand it has to be done. You can't skip it. I can't go from, hey, I got an idea, bro. We really don't know each other. You got things going on in your household, I got them in mind, but let's just embark in business. Like, it don't work like that. And so, we got to factor in time, because it is a risk just jumping into things, especially jumping into it with people. I was always told, leave out who you came in with. As you expand, you meet new people, but you really want to be very conscious of your circle, because it becomes a risk if you really didn't take the time beforehand to really build a strong foundation of your enterprise. And once again, this is why family farms typically do better, because the family, even if they hate each other's guts, they all have a vested interest in holding this asset. Once again, the indicator of the 30,000 acres that black families are losing a year. I know in my family alone, like a lot of people that really don't have a problem with each other, they just don't talk with each other. And so in the midst of that, you have assets that are just kind of going neglected, and there's always these entities just waiting for you to slip up. You didn't pay your land tax this year. Mine. And so it's really building trust. That's a big part of it. I think before we can really talk about real economics and really getting the farmers market popping like a Carter, so to speak, we got to be able to trust that black farmers are able to produce a quality product. We got to trust that black farmers and black businessmen, black businesswomen are able to conduct business and be trusted not to run off with the bag. We have to trust that, when these people that you think are criminals, or you people that you think are thugged out, are actually the people who your children are listening to when they're having these programs. We have to build this trust in one another, and it can't be avoided. It is a huge risk to go into anything if you don't have a solid foundation of people within your network who have the same ultimate end game in mind.
Well, this has been another wonderful discussion today with B1 Ag. We're going to check out now, but see us tomorrow, same time, same channel. And we're going to see what's growing. Any final words, Farmer Brown MC?
If you really want to know something,
Learn how to grow something. Y'all check it out. See y'all later. Be safe.
peace.